Tired of double standards? With the auto repossessions surging now in 2024, American Recovery Association needs you to know what's at stake in your business. Join Vaughn Clemens, Dave Kennedy, Jeremy Cross, Marcus Potter, Amy Bednar, Richard Grosvenor, and Mike Peplinski, for an important discussion tonight about rising expectations and costs. I'm excited. Of repo agent service care for customers, vendors, and situations. This is a really important discussion. We've been working up towards this, so please do say hello in the live chat, make new friends, and learn from the best on ATI Auto Business. What's up, ecosystem? Welcome back to ATI Auto Business, Automotive Ecosystem. Try to slow it down a little bit, Jay. Lots of people watching. I'm pretty excited because this is where everyone learns more about the automotive industry. Do me a favor, let's get started with some top industry news and headlines that include Wall Street recession panic, CDK Asbury Tekion legal fight, and dealership phishing scams. So please do say hello in the live chat. Thank you so much for doing that. Please also leave a like, click share, copy, grab that YouTube link. Hello YouTube, hello LinkedIn. This is show 358 in a row on a Tuesday night on ATI. These are important issues affecting repossession. And we have the American Recovery Association with us here tonight. Many of the members. Vaughn Clemens. Vaughn is the president of the ARA. We have Dave Kennedy, chairman of the Compliance and Government Regulation Committee of the ARA. Jeremy Cross is with us, board of directors, ARA, treasurer of the ARA. Marcus Potter is with us, board of directors of the ARA, chairman of Public Relations and Client Relations Committee. Amy Bednar is with us, board of director of the ARA, chairperson of the ARA Membership Committee. Richard Grosvenor, member of the ARA, member of the Compliance and Government Committee. And Mike Peplinski, he is committee man for the Contract and Insurance Committee for the ARA and VP of Harding Brooks Insurance. We're going to be talking about a lot of topics tonight. They are going to take over. I'm going to take the first 20 minutes or so. You know how I do it. I've got news. Actually got quite a bit of news. A lot happened yesterday. But before we get to that, I just do want to mention that agents are expected. There's a lot of expected of them. And there is an article that came out talking about double standards and lack of compensation for all that they do. And that is the topic tonight. And if you find that the ARA can be your advocate, you need to join and become a member. They're also going to be talking about that. You know, I always say know your ecosystem. In automotive, new, used, OEM, dealer, auction, logistics, remarketing, recon, compliance, and tech, we have a lot to talk about. It's automotive ecosystem. It's Tuesday night. And don't forget my Thursday show, Industry Logistics. We've got a Be Lean Fitness, Brandon Rothrock founder. He's on the show Thursday. Because you got to stay in shape when you're on the road. You know how hard that is? All right, let's do some news. There was an OBS update. The images are a little different. I'll be juggling a little differently tonight. Here we go. Nightmare on Wall Street. You saw this. Stock market bloodbath sees Dow, NASDAQ plummet as renewed recession fears trigger global sell-off. Recession. Oh, God. $1 trillion wipeout market rout punishes mega cap tech. The 7 most valuable U.S. tech companies lost a combined $1 trillion in market value at the start of trading Monday, yesterday. The tech-heavy NASDAQ was down more than 3% following the index's steepest 3-week slide in 2 years. NVIDIA shed more than $300 billion in market cap at the opening bell, though it quickly recovered about half its loss. Shares of the chipmaker closed down 6.4% for a loss of $168 billion. Apple, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet, Tesla, add it all up, almost $1 trillion. Worst day since 1987 Black Monday crash on Wall Street. Bitcoin plummeted 11%. Investors nervous for weeks. Have been. Goldman Sachs economists raise limited risk of U.S. recession to 25% chance. Economists at Goldman Sachs raise likelihood of U.S. economy slipping into a recession in the next 12 months. I know. We're going to get it out of the way. But it is applicable because tonight's show is about repossession. The unemployment rate also rose unexpectedly from 4.1% to 4.3%. 0.2 doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. Total July bankruptcy filings spiked 24% year over year. This came out today. Economists talking about the recession yesterday. Here's newest bankruptcy data provided. Might reinforce the point of view from experts who see things already in a recessionary state. U.S. bankruptcy filings in July increased 24% year over year. Individual bankruptcy filings registered a 25% increase. Chapter 11 filings jumped 40%. Wow. What's the Psalm rule? Are we already in a recession? Three economists respond. All right, the Psalm rule, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, the rule is named for economist Claudia Psalm, who previously was part of the Federal Reserve and Council of Economic Advisors. The rule signals the start of a recession when the 3-month moving average of the national unemployment rate rises 0.5 percentage points or more relative to the minimum of the 3-month averages from the previous 12 months. There it is, the Psalm rule. You're seeing this, right? I know it was another automaker, was it Stellantis, saying something very similar, might have been GM, offering buyouts to salaried workers. And you're seeing a lot of this too, open to work. There's a lot of changes in jobs on LinkedIn. So let's keep going. Asbury CDK locked in a legal fight over data control ahead of Tekion pilot. Now, Tekion was a big name about a year and a half ago at NADA. It's this tech. Good one, Jay. Asbury says CDK is holding its data hostage. Asbury says CDK is holding its data hostage? Okay. Weird timing. Asbury Automotive Group Inc. is suing its dealership management system provider CDK Global and seeking an injunction compelling the release of Ford dealerships data for Asbury pilot. With Tekion. Now, drawing a countersuit in opposition to the injunction from CDK. CDK's intent has become quite clear that it intends to squash its competitor, Tekion, and force Asbury to stay on CDK's platform by holding its data hostage, says Asbury. But CDK accused Asbury of using software to improperly collect the group's information stored with the DMS provider and declared that data access for Asbury as a regular renewing CDK customer was contractually limited to the data utilities. Yeah, I can't follow it either. Sounds like a good countersuit. After more than 13 years with CDK, 13 years? Come on. Asbury had planned to test Tekion's DMS at 4 locations. But CDK's refusal to hand over Asbury's data has thrown a wrench into those plans. They say it's based on, I don't know, their payment terms. Sucks. Dealerships warned about phishing scams tied to global cyber event. 2 cybersecurity consulting firms are warning dealerships about scams relating to CrowdStrike's catastrophic. Oh, jeez. From CDK to CrowdStrike. Which scam are you on? Jeez. Dealerships already spooked by the CDK global cyber attacks face new cyber threats risks stemming from the CrowdStrike outage, which, by the way, was... CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity provider whose problematic software update led to a crash. Yeah. Problematic. You think? A July 31 warning issued by cybersecurity consulting firm Helion cautioned the cyber criminals are pursuing what's known as social engineering phishing attacks. They're using fake internet domains that appear to be CrowdStrike in an email encouraging dealers to click a link for an immediate patch. Don't click it! Helion's warning included a screenshot of another phishing email claiming to be CrowdStrike. Customers updating servers, avoid disruptions. Here, click here. Dealership cybersecurity firm Blackbreach saying criminals are exploiting the global CrowdStrike outage. They're posing as CrowdStrike staff in phone calls. Oh man, they're making phone calls? Wow. And as an independent researchers claim to have evidence that technical issue is related to. They're saying it's a cyber attack. We're on the phone. I had a guy call me once. Hey, this is Verizon. You need to call me back right now. It didn't sound right. I didn't call him back. He did call back a few minutes later. I didn't answer that one either. Voicemail is full. The economy is growing, but so are auto repossessions. That doesn't sound right, says this article from Consumer Affairs. There were two headlines last week. Seemed at odds with each other. Gross domestic product rose in the second quarter. Excuse me. At the same time, vehicle repossessions are spiking. GDP exceeded expectations in the second quarter, restoring faith that the economy is easing into sustainable growth. Recent statements from the Federal Reserve officials confirm that a rate cut is squarely in view. Everyone's talking about when is that going to happen. Seems positive, sounds good, but repos are surging. What's going on? Eric Kelly, an economist and chief investment officer at UMB Bank, says consumers could be struggling more than most economists realize, noting that the true leading indicators for the labor market are all in severe downturns. It definitely appears that the labor market is softening, jobs are becoming harder to find, wage growth is cooling, official unemployment rate has been slowly climbing, has now reached 4%, which I think we saw earlier, 4.3, Ken. That's a sign the labor market is cooling off, and many people who bought expensive vehicles a year ago may no longer be working. There it is. In addition to that, San Francisco Fed has published data showing that all of the excessive savings built up during COVID-19 have been completely burned off. Yeah, you shouldn't have gone shopping with all that COVID money. Oh well. Simultaneously, normal savings rates in the U.S. have dropped near all-time lows. Yeah, people don't save. Why would you bother doing that? While the average household has spent all of its stimulus money, but I mean, it was to be spent. It was stimulating. It is also socking away less money on a monthly basis. This would make them vulnerable to any disruption to their income stream, which we know is happening as the unemployment rate climbs. Car repossessions were down 2020 to 2022. Don't forget the moratorium. Due to more forgiving lenders, government stimulus, to cover payments. In 2023, things changed. Lenders weren't so forgiving. Stimulus money stopped. Thus begins the countdown. 2023 repo levels were on par with 2019. Households, meanwhile, are dealing with higher car insurance payments, rising house costs, and that contributes to missed car payments and this year's increase in repos. So here it is. Chickens come to roost. The federal moratorium on foreclosures, which included car repos, ended July 2021. Dude, that was 3 years ago. Don't even remember 3 years ago. I found car repos in Australia affecting Australians the same way as Americans. Double-digit increases in insurance costs, rising gas, rising numbers, with numbers rising by 13% in the past 6 months, 11% over the last quarter. Australians are falling behind on their car payments. 90-plus day past due figures now at about twice the rate of 2 years ago, measured against credit cards, personal loans, auto finance. People tend to delay the car payment or miss the car payment before the house payment. The home mortgage is now sucking a bigger component of spending, and everything else is suffering. With a car loan, there are fixed loan periods. There's generally very little wiggle room to refinance. But the tide likely to turn for off-lease vehicle volumes in the second half of the year. Man, there's going to be a lot of used vehicles moving around. Numbers in this segment are expected to take a hit in the second half of 2024, not likely to return to pre-pandemic levels. However, lease turn-ins are looking at a year-to-date auction check-in at Manheim locations through the first half of the year. They've climbed 94% year over year. Wow. But trail 2019 levels. All right. So industry-wide, the number of off-lease units in the wholesale market plunged to 400,000 units in 2022, then climbed to 800,000 last year. The company, Cox Automotive, anticipates 1.1 million off-lease units in the wholesale market this year. Because everyone's talking about, what about lease turn-ins? What about lease turn-ins? Okay. As we move into the show, it's time to stop the double standards in our industry. We need to resolve critical issues protecting our costs, our time, our businesses. Agents are currently expected to provide coverage for any damage incurred, regardless of fault, to units stored on their lots. That gets expensive. Lenders must come to expect that storage fees will be a necessary part of doing business. We cannot continue to hold our breath each time a storm passes over. The auction community does not carry the risk when an act of God occurs with a unit stored at their location. Neither should the agents. Additionally, when transporters damage vehicles while they are in possession, we face significant risk. Lenders must allow any agent who has the ability to perform locksmith services to provide the key to the unit. Boy, that seems like common sense. We have a lot to talk about tonight. ATI is where everyone learns more about the automotive industry, so we're really glad you joined us tonight. We are the ecosystem's neutral zone. We take some shots. It's ATI. I don't ship cars, man. I move information. And I'm here twice a week. Let me know how I can help. Contact me at atiautobusiness.com. Get the podcast, listen in, enjoy the show. It's the automotive ecosystem. Do me a favor, stick around right after this. We're going to be live with the American Recovery Association. You don't want to miss it. Stick around.
Are you completely stressed out from all the calls and the contracts and the verifications of loads where nobody ever answers the phone? Call Murphy Auto Dispatch Services today. Murphy Auto Dispatch Services has over 15 years in the transport industry. We are your office while you are on the road. We book, we verify, and we bill out your loads for you. We have an excellent accounting staff and an even better dispatch team. Give us a call today at 417-273-0021, or if you want to email me, it's murphyautotransport31@yahoo.com. Give us a call today.
Transport Auto Quoter is by far the leading auto quoting software on the market, and the only auto quoter with a pro version that comes preset with accurate pricing for anywhere in the U.S. So you don't have to worry about it. The best part is that no change with your current software is needed. Just plug TAQ in and start booking jobs. Carriers can easily plug TAQ into their current websites and start making money right away. I bet you're wondering how we do this instantly and accurately 24/7. Well, constant analytics is the key. Our Price Watch team is constantly monitoring current market conditions, paying close attention to seasonal and quick-moving industry changes. At the end of the day, it takes a lot of time and data to maintain good pricing, time that most of us just don't have on a daily basis. So free yourself up. Using TAQ Pro is really a no-brainer. Save time and money, maximizing your leads and optimizing your online investments. You'll finally be able to sleep well at night knowing that TAQ is on the job selling for you 24/7. Never missing a potential job.
Don't lose sleep worrying about missing leads. Get Transport Auto Quoter. Here's the deal. You're running your business 24/7. You're asleep or you're out busy doing something and a lead comes in and you missed it. You don't want to do that. You want to quote the right price the first time, every time. Run your business with TAQ. Visit transportautoquoter.com. All right, here we go. Thank you so much. Please do help me wish a very warm welcome to. We got an incredible group here tonight. American Recovery Association. Can you see me and hear me okay?
We see you, Jay.
We see you. We can see you.
I talked about how I want to have a conversation like we already had a webinar. So let's just go ahead and jump into something right now. Vaughn, what do you want to kick us off with?
Well, Jay, first of all, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to be on your show tonight. This is one of these shows that I think I've been on. This is my fourth or fifth time. And you are sort of bringing different sectors of this industry together, like the transport and the repossession industry, and we appreciate that. I first want to tell you what the ARA really is looking to do tonight, and that is to start a conversation around conversations that have been historically taboo. No one wants to talk about what's really affecting these agents, and I'm going to start off with this. I mean, the purpose of the ARA is to advocate for our membership. And that membership could be an agent with 75 trucks across an entire state, down to one agent where his wife and the husband are running the business. We have a duty to educate them and to show them the errors that we've been doing for years, and it's actually affecting our industry. So I'm just going to kick this off with anybody on the group who wants to talk. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but I think the first conversation we want to talk about really is the insurance. And Dave is our compliance guru. And we have Mike Poplinski, who's our insurance guru. And we really want them to jump in and talk about the difference between direct primary coverage and how that's affecting our agents and why we're still providing that when the storage has ended years ago. Dave?
Well, thanks, Vaughn. So 30 years ago, when we were truly partners with the clients, and don't get me wrong, we still are partners, but it's changed. It's not the same type of relationship we used to have. They paid us storage. They understood the risk that we took. Unfortunately, as the industry changed and the forwarding model came into place, we lost a lot of the relationship value that we had. And in order to put ourselves apart from public towing companies that mostly carry legal liability insurance, and Mike Poplinski will describe that to you, we moved into direct primary insurance that really put a heavy burden on the agents. Mike, do you want to talk about how that has changed and what that has cost us and the insurance companies? And I'm sure Mike will tell you about how many companies have bowed out. It is very difficult now to find insurance in our industry.
Well, appreciate it, Dave. First off, starting with like just the number of carriers out there. 10 years ago, there were 7 to 10 carriers that was playing in the space. And that's not even a high number in most industries, but it wasn't a bad number. We're at 2, maybe 3, depending on your territory in the country, of players that will insure this industry. Commercial auto is always going to be the number one issue when it comes to insurance, but right behind it, we're talking garage keepers. And garage keepers covers really has 2 different distinct coverages. There's a legal liability garage keepers coverage, and then there's a direct primary coverage. Direct primary, which was mandated in all the contracts for repossession owners, strictly is basically whether you're negligent or not, we got you. We will cover it, whether it's hail, flood, wind, vandalism, doesn't really matter. Negligence is irrelevant. We will cover you. Now, that's what the repossession companies have to have, and that's an expensive piece of their premium they pay. The legal liability, which all towing companies, auction places have, is strictly the insurance company covers you only if they're negligent. So you take all those acts of gods, the wind, the hail, the flood, vandalism. If they didn't do anything wrong, they were not negligent, the insurance company does not have to pay. So when you look at it that standpoint, the premium from garage keepers is literally about double, depending on your territory, where you live, it's about double. Over 90% of the claims we get from a garage keeper standpoint falls only under direct primary coverage, which means what? The repossession companies are not negligent. They take so many precautions, from cameras to security. Everything's locked up. Keys are separated, right? They're in the utmost, controlled environment. The negligence is at a very minimum. All the claims that we see, and there are a lot of them, and they're big, are garage keepers direct primary only, which means they're not negligent. Richard Grosner, he's on with us. He had a very unfortunate thing that he did nothing wrong, but he had a, $200,000-$300,000 claim a couple of years ago, Richard. You want to explain what kind of happened to you and your team?
Yeah, that's right. Being in Georgia, we obviously get a trail of the storms that generate up from Florida, which is very dangerous. And, it disrupts your business. So obviously the cost involved, but yes. And, in the Georgia, Atlanta area, we hardly ever see hail, right? And I didn't even know the hailstorm had hit the Atlanta office until I got to work Monday morning and discovered it late in the day. That, it was small pea-sized hail, but it dinged, when you've got 4 or 5 acres full of cars, significant damage. Well, it's lucky we have you and the insurance to cover it. However, and it did, but your lost runs will haunt you for years. So when you're offering this free storage, for example, just think about that. You're storing all those cars for free, assuming all the risk and liability, and something totally, like you said, out of your control And then this disrupts your business, and that's going to haunt you for the next 4 years on your lost runs, right? So the cost is just insane, even though it covered it with a deductible, what my lost runs and my renewal cost us. So it could bankrupt a small company very quick. We were able to sustain it and move forward, but it's incredibly expensive.
As you know, the banks have been making record profits over the last at least 6-7 years, and they've basically have found a way to offload their accountability and liability onto the small business community in America, and not just banks, other large industries as well. But it's something it's caused a large disparity in our industry over our ability to provide our services and to keep our companies open when the big stakeholders have offloaded all of their liability and accountability onto the small businessman.
We just had in the last 30 days, we had 2 scenarios that came across. One, and both obviously were not negligent by the repossession. One out in the Texas area, the big hurricane that came through, wiped out a lot of people in terms of their cars. One, we had over 20 cars on one shot, just like that, wiped out. Another one where, they picked up the car, brought it back. Literally 3 hours later, all of a sudden started smoking, caught on fire for whatever reason, I don't know. Then 20-something cars later, they finally got the fire under control and put out. No negligence of any sort by the repossession company, but they're going to be having, probably $100,000 to $200,000 claim on their loss runs. And, what I tell everybody is, hey, this is what you're paying for, right? You're paying for this direct primary, so all the assets are covered for these lenders out there. You need to get compensated, because I can tell you right now, you are definitely paying for it, right? The premiums that you pay is expensive. I mean, literally, you can cut this garage keeper's premium probably in about half. That's some serious premium dollars that every single one of you guys can cut. But on the flip side, if you want to give it, that's great, but you need to be compensated for it. And it's really one of the two. Right now, we're kind of stuck in the middle, taking all the risk and, doing it for free.
Yeah, it's ironic we're having this conversation tonight when there's a storm marching up the eastern seaboard, and there's 4 folks, maybe 5 of you on this call that are in the direct path of that storm. So Marcus, Amy, Dave, Jeremy, you guys, Richard, you're on the off coast of it, but any of you guys want to jump in and say what you guys have done and how you all are holding your collective breaths, hoping that your yard is not destroyed by this storm?
Yeah.
Well, how much can we, if you don't mind, I'll jump in on Marcus. How much can we really prepare ourselves for it, right? We all have contingency plans. We all have, operational plans that, should a storm come through, what we can do to help mitigate it, but we're limited to our ability. We don't have abundance of space. We don't have the ability to move our cars to another part of our coverage area, maybe outside of the storm, because all of our lots are full, all of them, right? To a certain capacity, depending on how much volume you have. But even if you're a small mom and pop shop and you have 2 trucks and you might have 1 lot, where are you supposed to move your cars to? Are you supposed to move them out of the path to the Home Depot parking lot, maybe 10 miles away, and you got to move them one at a time? The risk, we don't mind providing that service. We don't mind. We understand the need because it hasn't gone to auction and hasn't sold, and we got to protect that consumer, and the lender property. That's fine. Where it really becomes difficult is we're getting squeezed on both sides. We have this looming act of God coming where we're really stuck and we can't, move cars fast enough. We can't get them off the auction. But at the same time, on the other side, our lots are full and we can't get more space. We can't get different space. So what do we do? On both sides of that coin, we're squeezed, right? We're at the mercy of when I get a release that I can move the car to auction. We're at the mercy of auction or a third-party transporter come and pick up that car. And, it's tough. It's tough to do that without compensation. Everyone on this call, every repossessor will have no problem providing that insurance for the return benefit. right? Because when we do get those maybe once every 10-year storms and we have a $200,000, $300,000 claim, and we know our premiums are going to go up for the next 5 years, we can afford the increase, right? Because we know. Or when our lots are full and we have to move from one lot to another lot and have extra space in case something like this happens, I have the ability to call all my trucks in, maybe call in other transporters to help me move to another lot, another facility, because I have the ability to do that. We can't do both sides, and we're being asked to do both sides with full lots without compensation, and it's not good for business. And it's, you know what, the wrong storm will wipe out a company. Who was there? Vaughn, you were around Houston when Harvey came. How many companies were, how many, you were right down the barrel in Houston. How many companies barely hung on during Harvey or after Harvey? How many, lots were wiped out in one storm?
Yeah, I think the Coxes experienced such a loss, and it becomes just a normal routine of the way we do business. But I think, to your point, Jeremy, there's got to be a benefit towards this risk. So here's our ask to the client community. This is what we're looking for our agents to start almost demanding. Either you pay the storage to compensate for this cost, or you take the direct primary coverage out of our requirements. The double standard comes in when someone performing the exact same service, sort of storing these units, are not faced with the same liability. The risk is one of these storms could put us out of business, and that's not fair. Marcus, Amy, I'll let you guys chime in.
Yeah, so Vaughn, I reached out to our ARA membership today, and there are 30 members between Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas right now impacted by the storm. One member that I spoke to has 8 lots that are experiencing excessive flooding right now. So just to put those numbers in perspective, they're just holding their breath and asking for prayers right now because that's really all they can do. So Marcus, I know that you're a little closer to it.
Yeah, so I'm in Charleston. We had a news report that came out that said we could see potentially 24 inches in a 3-day period. That's a massive amount of rain. So as Jeremy was talking about the squeeze that's put on us on both sides of the coin, what can I do? All you can do at that particular point is try to move to the highest part of ground and get as many vehicles off your lot as possible. But imagine, watching that storm come in and then seeing the direction in which it's going and trying to do that on the fly. It's just an impossible task, and we don't have the space to move it to. I mean, all I'm going to do is regurgitate kind of what everyone's already said. If we're not getting paid the storage, we don't have the space, we don't have the ability to move it 10 miles. It's just a no-win situation that every single one of us are in every day.
In addition to the acts of God, remember, this kind of covers everything. No matter what happens, it doesn't matter if you're negligent or not, it covers. One of the more frequent issues we see is the debtors breaking into the lots. It's all locked up. They break in illegally, and you see them walk right up to the door. You guys have cameras. Boom, they got the key fob, unlock the door, and they'll get in and just drive right through your fence. And we all know who it is. And then the lenders are like, well, it was in your possession. Pay for it. As much as I'd love to say, no chance. We know who has it. The coverage you have triggers, and they will pay for it every time. And again, no negligence whatsoever, but it happens very frequently.
Right, Mike, I know I've spoke to you about it. Unfortunately, in Cleveland, the borrowers have become so emboldened. We've had three incidents in the last calendar year where in broad daylight during business hours, we've had debtors and tertiary parties return, brandish a weapon, stick a gun in our employee's face, and make their way into the lot and get their car back. And I tell my staff, don't be a hero, just give them their car. But now we're responsible for the cost of that car.
And from the insurance, everyone's like, hey, it's not our fault. And guess what? It is not your fault, but it's not the insurance carrier's fault either. It's part of doing business, right?
I will say, Mike, if I might interject, not every client is taking that course. And credit where credit is due. Recently, we got a contract verbiage specifically talking about the theft, retaking of the property by the debtor. And I'm going to read you a section of this contract, if you don't mind. It's funny because I have it up. Specifically on this, that I thought was really somebody taking this, by the reins and not forcing the responsibility on the agent. Suppliers shall not be responsible for any or liable for any costs associated with a missing collateral or the recovery of the missing collateral if, and one of them, under no circumstances shall a supplier bear any responsibility or liability for any missing collateral that is reasonably believed to be stolen by the client's debtors or any person associated with the client's debtors thereof. That specifically, that piece, that is a client, and I don't know if they want me to put their name out there, but I hope it gets to everybody.
We commend them, whoever you are. We commend your.
We absolutely applaud that client, who is a forwarder, by the way, who's taking that responsibility off of the agent's back. Now, obviously, we have our due diligence. We have to, do what we can to secure the property. But in those instances beyond our control, they're not holding that against us. And I would like to see more clients take that lead. Take that lead.
So Jeremy, I'd jump in and say, I was talking to Vaughn a little bit earlier today, and I was kind of doing the same, commending a client for taking a step. And he quickly prompted and corrected me and said, hey, listen, if they're not going to pay storage, then we got to remove the direct primary, because they can put that verbiage in there, but you're still responsible for part of that, which means you got to buy the coverage. And if you're buying direct primary coverage, you have many lots. A lot of people have a lot of lots. It's expensive, and you're giving coverage away for free without any, any money coming to you. So that is a great baby step. But I think Vaughn hit it on the head of that's only a baby step, and we need either we're getting paid or get this thing removed, and that's the ultimate goal.
I think, Mike and Jeremy, kind of going back to your point, it's incumbent upon us to set the standards. The problem in our industry is we've allowed the folks that we're doing business with to not only set the standards for us, but also control the standards that they set. And I agree with what you're saying, that we want to commend them. But until the ARA and other associations, our industry, sets the standards and push them across the space, we'll forever be behind the 8 ball. I think we're the lowest folks on the totem pole, really. And we have to start setting, but the most important in the ecosystem. And it's time for us to come together, to unite, not under the same umbrella, but under the same process, that this is affecting us all. And, I think it's important. These are great conversations. We're looking for collaboration. We're looking for conversation, but we're looking for solutions that will limit our exposure and the liability we face each day.
Yeah, I thank you, Vaughn. And I'd just like to add to that too, guys. I think that what we're looking for in our space is there's so much risk in every aspect, whether it be the weather, the repossession itself, the transport, etc. Every aspect of our business has significant risk. And we assume all the risk with little to no reward, and that has to stop.
Yes.
There's other double standards, Vaughn. How about education and training?
Yes, Dave, jump right in, please.
So the repossession industry realized at least 10 years ago that compliance and education and professionalism were becoming key. Too many people watch television and they see the Wild West shows where the guy jumps out of the truck, grabs a shovel, and goes after somebody, and they think that's the way we are. The repossession industry today is probably one of the most highly trained and educated industries in the United States. We spend countless dollars, man hours on educating and training our employees to protect consumers. And the problem is that other parts of our industry, for example, Jay, don't take any offense, but the transport industry and other parts of our industry are not required to meet the licensing. We already talked about the insurance and the education and compliance training that we are required to provide to our clients. And again, that puts us at risk and the whole ecosystem of the automotive industry due to, again, double standards in education and professional business practices that we're required to do that they are not.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and say thank you. Is that you're not wrong about the education. And I mean, we know that on ATI is that in car hauling, yeah, education's important. But you don't really need much to go pick up a car at a repo lot and, you just do it. Now, you may do it wrong because you don't know much, but we need more education in the repo space. We do.
Jay, a lot of that has to do with collaboration. I was reading a post on your LinkedIn page yesterday, and you had a gentleman comment about us. He said things like, we chose to specialize in this field.
I saw that.
And he said that your next story should be about the difficulty that transporters face picking up vehicles from our repo yard. He said booking appointments were crap, and that the recovery space needs to get more normal release hours. He said he had no sympathy for repo companies, and he apologized that we took on this line of work because nobody held a gun to anyone's head, and we've all made the decision to be in this business, and we need to figure out a way to survive. Now, I thought about that comment, and what it reminds me of is the general consensus among anyone looking down on our sector, and I reiterate the word down. And if I had a conversation with that gentleman, I'll tell him he's absolutely right. No one held a gun to our heads. But the recovery agents, no one on this call and no one that I know, we're not looking to complain or whine. We don't want any handouts. Many of our members and anyone in this space are second and third generation families in this industry. We're all blue collar workers, and we weren't forced to do this job, and no one held a gun to our head, but they're holding a gun to our head and forcing us to accept things without any signs of negotiation. And we're in trouble. I'm thinking about that one agent that comes into this space and he has a truck and an idea. And the only contract he's able to hook onto is a forwarder. And he's introduced to this sector with contracts that are shoved down your throats. It's to take it or leave it mentality. And this is what he's faced with for years. And what happens is he becomes to expect that as being normal. So to Dave's point, there is education needed, but we need to collaborate. We need to speak to the transporters and make them understand where we come from, as well as the clients. And at the end of the day, we need to take our businesses back. We need to gain, this is the start, but we're not looking to just have conversations. We're looking to have action. And I will actually recommend you have another conversation with the transporters on the line about how we can collaborate better. We've done a show like that before, Jay. I think it's time we do it again.
Jay, if I can take a moment and add to that, I had an interesting conversation this past weekend. I was at a convention, and there were a couple of auction houses there, and I was speaking to those auction houses, and basically the same thing Vaughn was just saying as I was talking to those auction houses. There is a lack of understanding between the transporter, the auction house, and the repossessor at the time of them wanting to come and pick up the vehicle. I think that not only should we get those transporters involved in some of those conversations, it would be great to get some of the auction houses involved as well, so they can become and learn a little bit more about the industry and what happens on our side of the fence.
Absolutely. And this really is amazing because I once thought the same thing about appointments. I didn't get it. The more I learned, the more I understood. And then I realized, the things I was thinking are exactly the types of elements in the comment you were talking about. And I'm really glad that comment happened, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that's the reality. One of the things that in the transport space, I'm just going to mention it, that I don't think it gets talked about enough, the turnover is so high in auto transport that if you educate a group this year, next year you'll have so many new faces they miss the whole speech. I don't even know how that education happens in a 3 to 5 minute segment every time somebody joins the industry. And where do we start? What do we tell them? Also, I just want to say this is that what transporters don't know is how much they have in common with the repossession industry as far as feeling like they're at the bottom. Because the double standard for the repo agency, in auto transport is the broker. It's a tough conversation.
I will say this, and I know Dave is modest. He probably won't mention this, but it is through his direct work that we have the CCRS platform, a compliance portal that allows us to educate and train anyone entering this space. The problem is that's simply not enough. And just like the repossession industry, the transport industry as well, you can't just have anyone that can breathe and has a truck entering into space. Moreover, for the repossession space, if you're consumer facing, we must make it where you have to go through a set rule of certification prior to repossessing your first car, where training is involved. And I think what Dave was alluding to earlier is the double standard allows folks to enter this space without that training, unbeknownst to the client on the far end that this is happening, and we must talk about that. The ARA is in the process of putting together another segment where we can talk about this issue that's plaguing our industry, and it's happening behind the scenes, but we must push this to the forefront and discuss it. Anyone want to talk? I want to take up the whole call because I can't.
Okay, group, we talked about this. So, camera one, welcome to ATI. We are at 7:47. We've done really well in the past 20 plus minutes talking about important issues, but it's only halftime. We got another 20 minutes to fill, and I know that there's more. And I made some lists of some things. I'm going to start saying topics, and someone's going to jump in.
Well, Jay, before you
go. All right.
Before you jump on, I want Mike. I think part of the education is explaining the direct primary. And I know you said it already, Mike, but I want anyone in the room listening. We're not complaining about this. We just want to say, to Jeremy's point earlier, if we cause some damage, we have a duty and a responsibility to pay for it. But we don't want to pay for anything, regardless of who's at fault, and not collect storage for that service. There's a hard cost with providing this direct primary insurance. And Dave, he's the oldest in this group. He spoke eloquently about it, how years ago when they brought this into this space, storage was in this space, and it made sense. But storage has been gone for many years, and the direct primary is still here, and it's putting agents out of business. So I think we really want to hone in on that, stay there, and make sure our audience understand we're not complaining, we're simply making a point.
And I'm going to add this. You know that transporters think that the repo lot's making money off storage? Yeah, we actually think that. Tell us we're wrong. What's wrong about that? That's not true?
Wrong.
No.
What?
No.
Jeremy, jump in there and talk about
This
the
is
cost center.
Okay.
We set the stage, Jeremy.
Yeah. So when I say we're not making enough on storage, so there are clients that do pay storage. There are some in various degrees, right? You have some, very few, God bless you, day one storage, and we have those. We have ones that pay after 10 days and ones that pay after 15 and ones that never pay. All in pricing, which is the worst thing that's ever touched our industry, is all in pricing. But from the eyes of a transporter, let me try to paint a picture, right? Before I get into the ones and zeros and twos of how we calculate our storage costs. They're under the assumption that delay in picking up cars from us is due to us trying to pad a storage bill. Anybody watching this right now who's a repossessor will flat out say, I want this car off my lot as fast as possible. Like, I want it off my lot yesterday. Okay. Because the longer it sits on my lot, the more I have, the less opportunity I have to turn that space over. Right. My goal, that parking space cost me a daily number. And the 17 state associations got together just recently, of which I'm a member, president of the Pennsylvania State Association, and who participated in it. And we actually submitted our numbers, what it costs to store a car on a daily rate. The average across the country, when you calculate rent or mortgage, your employees' time, utilities, taxes, insurance, all that stuff, and you divide it across the amount of spaces you have on your lot. There are folks that averaged about $4 a day, and then there are folks that averaged about $14 to $15 a day. And God bless them. I don't know how they're not pulling their hair out. But the average cost of that space across the country was just under $6 a day. I'm doing this from memory, so don't call me out on it. But think about that. So if I store a car for 10 days, it costs me $60. Okay. If I store for 20 days, it's $120 and so forth. But if you're only paying me a flat rate, $400 a repo, if I'm lucky, right? $60, or what is that, 15%, right off the top goes to storage. Goes to covering the storing of the vehicle, no longer for the repo piece or the overhead. It goes right to me for the privilege of storing your car. And the longer that goes on, the more the money I lose in providing a free service. Then that means I have to get bigger space if I want to bring in more cars. I only make money turning that lot over. I'm in the repossession business. I'm not in the storage business. So if I'm not repossessing cars, I can't sell you keys. I can't sell you transports. I can't sell you storage because everything starts and ends with that car coming in. If my lot's full, I don't repo. I have to send my guys home. And I told this story at NARS because I was on the panel talking about storage. And I mean this. In August of last year, we had a record month for IRS. Absolutely blew the doors off. It was amazing. Till September came, and my lots were full. And we shut our business down 3 separate times in September, where I had to tell my staff, sorry guys, you have to go home. I can't put any cars on the lot today because there's not enough cars left. The first time I did that, oh cool, we get a 3-day weekend. The second time I did that, it was okay. The third time I did that, you can believe the questions that came with it. And those are days you never get back. So that cost, it was amazing that all these 17 states and all the companies that participated in it actually came together and put this out. And we're working on something. We actually did an article that went out on CD Collector that gave this template to anybody who wanted to participate and do their own numbers to see what those costs are and understand what it costs you to store a car. And when you're negotiating that contract with the client and they say, I need my 5 days, my 10 free days, my 20 free days, you understand how much that is costing you in the repo, right? So to that topic, I know I'm being a little long-winded, I apologize. But I would tell every repossessor here, you have to know your numbers. You don't know your numbers, you're going to be in a world of hurt eventually. And to those transporters that think we're, padding, I don't have the people to release the car to you the day you call me you want the car. You have to schedule out because I have to play Jenga on the lot to move cars to get your car out. When you don't show up when your appointment time, right? And I got to put that car back, I don't like you very much because now I can't charge anybody and I paid somebody to come off the road to move that car, move 5 other cars to get you your car. Now I got to put it back and then you're going to come the next day and demand it then. So yeah, I get from their perspective, they think that we're making tons of money on the storage. I can tell you we are not. And when you don't show up for your appointment because you're stuck in traffic or you're mad at us because we want you to set your own appointments on through our systems or with the paper trail, understand why we have to do that.
So I'm going to jump in. Man, great stuff. I just want to say this, Marcus, is that this also gets into who got hired to pick up that repo unit. And I think that we need improvements on how that's done too. Because when it's just rando, that's not working.
I want to add two things to what Jeremy was talking about. One, I'm stealing from him from, I believe, the NARS show, just to keep it simple, Stu, because I think it's a great way of talking. When transporters think that we're holding the car, I want to give it to you from a different perspective. Jeremy used an analogy of, if my lot will hold 100 cars and I can turn that spot one time, I can only repo 100 cars in the month. When you think about that, we're only making money if we repo cars. If I'm sitting on that car and my lot's full, I'm not repoing any more cars. I'm not making any money. That's about as simple as you can make that. The second part, when he talked about Jenga with the vehicles, we shut our gate at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and spend 3 hours playing Jenga every day. 3 hours getting prepared for the transporters for the next day. Imagine trying to do that in the middle of the day at noon when you've got 18-wheelers sitting in your parking lot and you're trying to dig a car out on the fly. We can't do it. So understand that's a whole nother reason why we need an appointment. I would say probably every single person on this call and most of your repossession agencies out there prep their vehicles today for tomorrow's transport, because that's what the process has to be, because we don't have big enough lots not to stack those cars 3, 4, 5 cars deep.
There could literally be an educational ongoing series in the mobile app, by the way, that just day in, day out tries to help educate and keep these things moving. Because transporters, if there's a transporter right near, either live or on demand, hearing this for the very first time. They didn't know that.
Well, I can tell I'm going to extend a very warm welcome. They are more than welcome to come to NARS in April of next year. April, right? Mm-hmm. And we have classes and speakers that talk just about this topic. Any way that we can help assist our transporter partners that want to participate, we will welcome them with open arms, and they can ask us questions. And you know what? If we're both informed about how the other one participates, and we are become a unified front, how much easier does it get for us to communicate and accomplish our goals?
So repo and transport needs the help of the auction and the lender to help create a financial incentive so that happens. And so that lanes get built, so these things get moved faster and more reliably. That's what needs to happen.
Well, there will be plenty of lenders there, and we welcome the transporters to attend too. And if we have the opportunity to extend that welcome out to any auction participants that want to join us, they're more welcome to join us as well. We'd love to have them.
And it would be great to see a company take this idea and run with it and do that at a show. That'd be amazing.
Hey, so Jay, there's a question in the chat and it's a pretty valid question. What happens if we can't get rid of the primary direct coverage or pay the storage? If we can't get the client to do either or? And Mike, while we go through this brainstorming session, because we are looking for solutions, what can we do as a whole to make this happen?
You know, I wish I had a good answer for you, Vaughn. It's one of those that, and I even thought, hey, can we'll just take away the direct primary and we're giving them legal liability, and you know what? If they don't want to pay, tough, they're getting legal liability. But then it goes back to the contract, right? And everything goes back to the contract, where if you signed off saying you're responsible, you're going to have direct primary coverage, whether you do or don't, it's really irrelevant to them. Whether you pay for it or the insurance company pays for it, someone's going to pay for it. It's not going to be them, because you signed the contract and you're liable to uphold that contract. If you want to really get in strong arms and say we're not doing it, then most likely you're going to lose a client. And no one's looking for anyone to lose a clients. No one's looking for anyone to take it on the chin themselves. But that's what I'd love to do. I'd love to just say, hey, if you don't want to pay, then you're not getting the coverage. But it kind of goes back to the contract of what you guys signed and what you guys are agreeing to up front.
So, Mike, I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but you also sit on the contract committee. Is there something we can do at the contract level to put this up, to tee this up to the clients, to start a discussion around why this is no longer needed? And when you think of the direct primary, you have car lots that have millions of dollars worth of inventory on their lot that they own for the most part. There's a reason for them to carry that coverage. We don't own this crap. And I'm sorry to say it, we don't own it. There's no benefit for us providing this coverage if we can't charge for the coverage. So is there something we can do contractually to maybe tee this up to them? Maybe they just don't understand. I mean, Dave was the one who came up with this a week or so ago. The direct primary was not a part of our industry, 40, 50 years ago. It came into being, and it's been here even after storage ended. So storage is no more, and the clients have a repudiation for that word. They hate the word storage. You're not going to get it. We're not going to, but okay, we'll take that. Well, we're not going to provide this. And that's where the negotiation must come into play. Is there something we think we can do at the contract level to get these folks to answer those hard questions?
Well, first off, I'm much more of a fan of keeping the direct primary coverage and having these assets covered for the bank's lenders. I think it's more valuable to them. However, on the flip side, if we're not going to get storage, if they're not going to pay storage, then it's one of those kind of united fronts that we need to kind of get a couple of these lenders. And I know some of them have, you guys have their ear. Some of them are looking. Some of them are willing to sit at the table and talk and try to partner with us. We need those to help lead and make the change and kind of the domino effect. Other people will follow. We can change the contracts right away. Will they go with it? They haven't yet, right? So it's kind of one of those, who's going to take the leap? Can we get a lender to do it? Can we get enough large players to just say, hey, we're not giving it? It's a great discussion to have, though. It's one of those that when we were up at Capitol with the Repo Alliance crew and the ARA, we had those discussions of storage and that kind of bullying technique that these lenders are kind of doing, saying, hey, if you don't want it, we'll go down the road and get somebody else to do it. And that's not what we're looking for, right? That's not best for anybody. So it's one of those that it's constantly on the table. We need to continue to push it. We need to continue to communicate and continue to educate. Why is, I've never gotten a good answer of why the towing and auction houses, yards can have a legal liability former garage keepers and you can't. Besides, you guys have been taken advantage of long enough and they just feel that they continue to do it. And you really, I'll be honest, I said it earlier, you really kind of opened my eyes when I was calling you earlier, like kind of all excited of, hey, this is a good baby step. And you're like, hey, baby steps don't cut it anymore. We either need to get paid or the coverage is gone. If you're not negligent, why are you paying it? And that's where you're at right now. So it's on the table. A lot of people are listening, and we need to continue to get the right people in the seats and make some things happen.
Just as a round robin, and Dave, I'll start with you, and let's just circle the group. Do we have any idea or thoughts that we can generate and maybe start putting this on the top of our agenda where we can, I don't want to say force, that's the wrong word, but we want them to lose that the way it's always been is the way it always should be done. We can't continue this. And Dave, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts? Same question posed to Mike. What can we do to the person in the chat who asked the question to make this a part of the conversation at the client level?
I think the first thing that we have to do is that we have started doing a better job at educating the clients to our day-to-day operational difficulties that we have and what some of the status quo has cost. For example, they lost, approximately 33% of the repossession agents across the country over the pandemic. And we've started to do that. But I think that we have to show them how this race to the bottom and not providing your qualified agents with compensation for line items such as storage and keys and other special equipment we use to protect them affects them, and not just in the repossessions, it affects them when it comes to their ability to take care of the American public. Without us out there mitigating loss and providing an avenue for them to recover mistakes, the auto auctions, of course, would suffer. You know, what do we get? What do we think? At 2.5 million vehicles a year get thrown into the auction due to us. Of course, lease turn-ins are a lot more than that. But I think it's education. We have to we have to push the partnership.
Understood. Amy, any of you guys want to jump in? Marcus, Richard?
Yeah, I was gonna take off a little bit on what Jeremy and Mike both said. So we have one client out there now that is willing to take a piece of that off of the table. If we can get a major lender then to take direct primary out of their contract and let that be a domino effect to get to another lender, to another lender. If we can do that 3 or 4 or 5 times over, I believe we will change the status quo, or at least we have the potential to change the status quo.
Yeah, great. Good point, Marcus. I'd like to add to that too. You know, I think that in our industry, we've always been so quick to pull the trigger. I think, like Dave's explained and Mike's explained, you know, for the listeners out there, take advantage of the opportunities. Send those contracts to Mike and his team and let them review them, right? And I want to share something with everybody on this call and the audience listening. We're blessed to be a solid company. One of the major banks in the Southeast has reached out and said, hey, we want to come back to you. You know, we've done business with them in the past, and now they've said, yeah, we need your service. We need your help. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I know what your contract entails. I'm very aware, and they want free unlimited storage within the contract. And I right up front told him, not interested. Don't even bother forwarding that contract over if you're still entertaining free storage. And I know it sounds crazy, and they pay really well, and their success rate's good. It's the cream of the crop of a lender. But sometimes you just have to say no and let them know you mean business. Well, I got the contract about 2 months later. My wife reviewed it. We've talked about it. We've discussed it. We run into the same problems everybody else. Do we want to keep shuffling cars? We want to keep growing? Do we want to put out the risk and give away free storage? We don't. The contract's been laying on their desk, I'll guarantee you, for 2 months. And we haven't followed through. And we're very adamant up front. We're not interested in entertaining and giving away free unlimited storage. So let them soak on it a while. Let them think about it. And if they really need you and you're that good, they'll come back to the table. Or they're going to have to use somebody else that will.
And I want to pause here. What does the lot look like that says, yeah, free unlimited storage all day, no problem? What does that look like? Because I'm comparing it to the transporter that was mentioned in the live chat that they were not happy with. And that's why everyone says don't haul cheap freight.
Right. And Jay, I just want to add to that my property taxes tripled. It's public information. Pull it up for yourself. Look at it. You'll see I'm not lying. I'm not telling anything untruthful. My property taxes for Atlanta office tripled in 1 year. And now we've got to find a way to pay for it. And it's not with that free unlimited storage with that new bank, I can assure you.
Well, what about all the people who leased their property since COVID and you know, are competing? There was a webinar I did earlier this year, competing against the likes of Amazon and UPS and FedEx that are taking all these industrial areas, which were very limited to where we store cars. Now we're competing against companies of that size that have, you know, unlimited dollars to throw at a property. You know, here in the Northeast, you know, to lease 10,000, 15, 20,000 an acre, and higher. Think about that. On 3 and 5 year leases, you're talking about, if it's 10,000 an acre for a 3-year commitment, 3-year lease, which is a small, 3-year leases in our space are almost unheard of. Usually they're 5 and longer. That's $360,000 commitment that, oh, by the way, if you don't pull a single car, you still have to pay. You can't unload it. You can't sell it like property if your business changes. You're locked in, right? So, there's a lot that goes with this that I think most people take for granted, the level of commitment that we have to opening our space, and then the insurance that goes with it. I, for one, am not advocating dropping the direct primary coverage. I think that is a good service and takes care of the customer while in our possession. I'm a big advocate. You should be paying for that service. Like that's the win. Allow me to continue to do that, to take that risk off your customer, and let it go to auction, but compensate on the other end. I think the other side, with removing the direct primary, yeah, it's going to save us a couple bucks. Might save the client a couple bucks, but I think that in the long run, that's the wrong way to approach that, I think.
The
That's
better
just my
option
opinion.
for both sides is exactly what you said, Jeremy. The better cover the assets properly. That's the biggest.
Insurance is a good thing. Insurance is a good thing. Listen, as a matter of fact, we should have the insurance, and those auctions should also have the same insurance. But that's a topic for a different day, right? You have an auction people having the same conversation, they might think differently. But imagine what that would look like. I wonder how much would change if all of a sudden the auctions had to carry the same direct primary, and that's an auction. Manheim has 10,000 cars on our lot. Hey, Mike, what do you think that premium would look like?
Jeremy, going back to your statement there. So I'm like you. I would prefer to keep the coverage but there has to be a if behind that, if the storage is paid. And since the client community forsakes that word right now, it has to be an either or. Oh yes, geez, I would love to have that. But if they don't provide the revenue behind us providing that coverage for them, then we must reject it. We must have the opportunity to say it's no longer available for you to even accept unless you pay. I mean, we have to draw a line in the sand, but it has to be done collectively across the space. It must be a standard.
Vaughn, I agree. I was just talking about what I think the best preference for all parties should be is to pay for the service and continue to provide the service. Everybody does win in that scenario. I think if you go the other way and you remove it, you're in the long run, it's going to cost you more than if you just paid for the storage.
Absolutely. Spot on.
Well, I'm sorry to keep pushing that, but if we have legal liability coverage in place of that, if they say there's no way we're going to pay storage across the board, and we can add legal liability instead of the direct primary, then we can't lose. If it's our fault, if we're negligent in storing their vehicle, then by all means we should pay. But we shouldn't cover a hurricane or a tornado or somebody coming in and through a locked fence and tearing it down and busting all the glasses out of the car. There's got to be a line drawn in the sand, and it must be either or. And that's my position, Jeremy. I mean, I would pray that they would say yes.
I mean, you think about
what if they don't?
You think about from the insurance standpoint, right? You can get a legal liability policy, you can get a direct primary policy. Either way, the insurance carrier is going to charge appropriately, and you choose, right? It's not going to say, hey, we're going to pay out direct primary, but we're only going to charge you legal liability. It doesn't work that way. However, in your scenario, it does.
Right. I mean, I think it's like you said, Mike, earlier, it starts and ends at the contract. And we're doing a pretty good job at the ARA of looking at contracts. I think the contract committee is nearly ready to release a standardized contract version that we need to push out to the entire space. The words matter in the contract, and direct primary must go away if you don't accept a daily storage rate. What that number is, we can't set it, but there's got to be something to provide that coverage.
We definitely got to look at that in the committee and get some sort of verbiage one of two ways.
Okay. Jay, I will say this. I know we're getting close, but I want to just commend the folks on this call. Everybody on this call, including Mike, are volunteering their time in this professional capacity. I mean, every one of them. Dave has been years and years and years of trying to make this industry a better place for us all. And we do this because we have a vested interest. We've been in this business for years. In my case, 40 years. And I have seen the decline and the loss of control, but we're volunteering this time. We're not getting paid to be here. None of us are paid to be an ARA member. None of us are being paid to be an ARA committee person or a board member. None of us. The purpose of this is to create a strong industry that progresses in a manner that benefits us all, not just the lending community. It's got to be a win-win for us all. And until we can negotiate these contracts, we're in a losing situation. And I'm passionate about this because I've been in this business for so long. I've seen it go from really good to really bad. And it's been so bad for so long. And the only way we can fix this if we unite across every platform, the Eagle 20, Allied, and ARA, come together and get these guys that are hanging around on the fences, not a part of anything, and get them under the tent so we can push this with one force. The ARA cannot do this alone. It takes all of us collectively thinking the same way. We want our businesses back. And it's going to take us all thinking the same way. It's going to take standardization in this space. So that's my point. But I applaud each of you guys for volunteering your time. Mike, you've been a strong advocate for us, and we appreciate you, but we need more. There's a lot of folks that are hanging around the fringes that, we need you to come inside, be a part of something to make this agenda strong. I had a member just reach out to me on a text, and I'm going to read you what he said. What if we published a scorecard for lenders that highlight good partnership and showcase it at NARS and in the marketplace? That's a good first step. If you're going to be a true partner, let's put your money where your mouth is. Let's back us up. Show that you're a partner of ours and not just, patting us on the back and that attaboy, you picked up 50 cars this week. I am concerned about where this industry is going because we accept anything. And the more we accept, the more we continue to get what we get. So, hey guys on this board, Richard, Mike, thank you guys for being a part of this conversation. It only can continue, but we need everybody from every tent in this fold.
Yeah, thank you, Vaughn. It's an honor to be ARA member and amongst Jeremy, Marcus, Amy, yourself, Mike. It's a true honor. And, just recently I've gotten involved with ARA and started contributing, but I want to thank you for the invitation. And I would encourage more people to get involved and instead of sitting back on the bench and talking about what's not happening, you got to get off the bench and make it happen. Come join us. Come join the fight. So thank you.
Come join us. We got really cool blue shirts. We look handsome, right? Come get a shirt.
Right.
Yeah, Amy looks beautiful in her blue shirt. Yeah.
Jay, I'd also want to thank you and all your following for allowing us to come on tonight, talk to everybody, hopefully open the light a little bit for the transport community. Hopefully some of the lending community was out there. They understand a little bit more as we talk through the different challenges that we have. So I want to thank you for giving us the platform and allowing us to come on to your show and do this.
Thanks, Jay.
And Dave too. Sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to leave you out. Dave,
That's
did an
all good,
incredible
man.
job.
Jay, we can't hear you.
You're on mute.
All right, mic check 1 2 going again. I took a lot of notes. I had marked my courtesy mute on as well, and I want to thank you all so much. through the years, I've learned a lot more. Now I'm an advocate rather than a criticizer. That's what I started as. And it's a process. It's education. It's learning. When you realize you have something in common with someone that you just, thought was an adversary, and now you realize you're on the same side, it's a real eye-opener. So I'm glad to be part of that process. So thank you for taking your personal time to help me continue the education that we all know is important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay, it sounds like this is a show.
So that's it. That's a wrap?
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap?
Wrap.
All right. And you all can hear me okay? That's fine? Okay.
Again.
All right, good. Thank you all so much. Vaughn, Richard, Marcus, Mike, Jeremy, Dave, and Amy. Thank you very much. I just want to say the live chat was happening. We had mega views tonight. This is a really big show. There's a lot of interest. And so I want to thank everybody in the live chat and on camera, off camera, behind camera, etc. Clearly, people are passionate about this. So thank you all so much for being a part of it, making this happen. I look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Oh, breaking news. We're going to be talking more about this topic at Used Car Week.
Yes.
So that's exciting.
Yes.
The industry is listening.
Thank you, Jay.
Awesome.
All right. Good night,
Appreciate
everybody. Thank you
Yeah.
very
All
much.
right. Thanks,
All
everybody.
right, cool.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
And that's a cut. Okay. I like being courteous with the microphone, but I hate it when I forget to turn that back on. Bugs me. It's gotta be 100%, Jay. Lots of live chat comments tonight. Actually, I think that this show, statistically, is probably one of the biggest shows I've done this year. Hopefully not the biggest, meaning I like to make big shows. I have made so many shows. You'd think by now I would know when my audio's on or off. I got the screens over here and the live chat and the whatnot. Thank you so much. Thank you, Murphy Auto Transport Services. Thank you, Superflow Systems. Thank you so much to the American Recovery Association. Thank you for being in the live chat. Thank you, Renee, for helping make the Used Car Week. We're back. Year 2 of 2. It's going to be so exciting. We just found out earlier today. So, we'll see you there. This is an important topic. You've got NARS. You've got auto hauler associations. You've got ATI. There's many media outlets. There's a lot happening on LinkedIn. I want you to let me know how I can help. In the YouTube comments, please like, please share, please say something. Thank you for all the live chat comments. Please follow ATI Auto Business live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn twice a week. And I tell you, I know there's something different about this channel. I said it in the intro, ATI takes a lot of shots. And you know what? I think there's plenty of media on the side that's making a lot of money. There is not much media on the side with the problems. ATI is on that side. We're the underdog channel. That is our purpose, is to help the underdog in automotive get the message out. If you're such an underdog, let me know. Send me an email, autotransportintel@gmail.com. ATI, home of the underdogs. Here comes the car hauler. That seems appropriate. Good night, everybody. Thank you.